We have effectively calculated the economic losses that the black community faced.
Who's going to pay the bill?
Well, thankfully, that's not the task force's job to figure out.
They talk about systemic racism. Where is it? Where's the white boogeyman that they're talking about?
We really enjoy Piers Morgan conversations because the dude is, sometimes he comes off as real chill and mellow. Sometimes he comes off as a hothead. It is what it is. And I enjoy it because it seems real. It's real. All right? It's real. I ain't got no issue with that. Don't be super professional around me all the time. Because then they let me know that you are always acting. Relax, be yourself just for a moment. But he's about to have a conversation that's going to get heated, and I want to check it out with y'all.
Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. The California Reparations Task Force this week voted to approve recommendations
Did he say California Reparations Task Force?
on how the state can compensate black residents for historic discrimination. Governor Gavin Newsom has praised the task force, but appears to be cooling on its advice, perhaps because it could cost $1.2 million per person. This debate is everywhere right now. The British monarchy has faced repeated calls for reparations.
My great-granddaddy was a slave. I got papers right here. Give me my money. Give me money. Give me money.
For historic links to the slave trade. Well, BBC journalist Laura Trevelyan recently quit her job to campaign for reparations, having donated £100,000 herself to Grenada, where her family historically owned slaves. So is this a form of historic justice, or is it just divisive? Well, I'm joined by a member of the California Reparations Task Force, Jovan Scott Lewis, and Fox News contributor and civil rights lawyer Leo Terrell. All right, welcome to both of you. Jovan, let me ask you.
This about to be good, man. I can tell right now, bro. This is about to be good. Hey, it's about to go down. Hey, Shay Brown, you saw my papers? Look at these papers. I got my papers. This is my reparation papers right here. Come on now.
About this, because on the face of it, I've talked about this quite a lot recently. I don't understand how the pain from historic sins gets eased by bunging a load of cash to people now, almost all of whom will have not suffered the original pain. So explain to me.
Sure, thank you for having me. So what we're doing in California is we are dealing with some of the more recent experiences of discrimination, beginning with the period of Jim Crow here in the state of California. So what we call these are really the lingering effects of slavery. And so we're not providing reparations or recommending reparations for slavery itself, but for the ongoing institutional and state-based harms that the African-American community has faced.
But it's not only African Americans. I mean, look, slavery was an evil, evil thing. Nobody denies that. But it's not just African Americans who have suffered historic sins and ills against them. Where do you take the logic of this argument? Does every community in the world?
To be fair, Piers Morgan, every community have a representative, all right? So even though it wasn't only African Americans who have faced those atrocities, African Americans will have a representative or two or three or 1,000, you know what I mean? Or a task force in California like this dude. So although other people have been, dealt a horrible hand in the past, here's the argument of the blacks, okay? The blacks are going to tell you that most other people, most other nationalities have received some form of payment in some way, all right? But black people, because those people can back up where they come from. They can say we are actually Korean, we're Japanese, we're Jewish, we're this, we're that. Whereas black people are black. They're black. So if black people try to go back and get their information or their papers, some of those papers are not even available publicly up until mid-1800s or something like that. And a lot of daggone people were here, as slaves before the mid-1800s. Now, I don't particularly agree with reparations for everybody or reparations in the way that they're trying to present it, actually. If there's going to be some reparations and y'all are going to discuss it, then discuss it in a manner that will benefit everyone, okay? Not take down the country, because for people who are listening to me right now and you're like, oh, there go another black man who's against reparations. Now, let me put it to you like this. Where the money going to come from? You never asked that question before because you don't care about the answer, all right? And that's important. It's extremely important. Because if everybody was paid out $1 million because their family members were slaves, every black person was paid out $1 million, that would put us in trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. Again, on top of the trillions in debt that we are already in debt, and it will further F up our money here in America. Now, people don't care about messing up anybody else's resources or economy in order to fatten their pockets, and that's the problem right there. I would like for us to all come together, figure something out, if there's something to be figured out, but let's move objectively. All right, I'm going to talk more, but let's go let them get into it.
Who has been mistreated historically, are they all worthy of financial payment? And if so, how is the world going to pay all this stuff, given we're already suffering a global financial crisis?
Thank you, Piers. See, sometimes I say some things that make some sense. How are we going to pay for this? Okay, go ahead.
Right, that's a fair question. So what we're doing in California is we have effectively calculated the economic losses that the black community faced as a result of state policies. And so we're effectively tracing, the capital that this community lost over the past, century and a half of discriminatory, state policies. And the argument is that we're building a reparations proposal around those direct losses. In addition to that, we have, dozens of policies and programs that are helping to effectively end the kind of discriminatory cycle that African Americans have faced in the state.
Who's going to pay the bill?
But thankfully, that's not the task force's job to figure out. Our job was to create a...
Sorry, hey, that's a cop-out, bro. That's a cop-out. Thankfully, that's not the task force's job for us to figure out. Nah, that's a cop-out. That's a damn cop-out. That's like a kid always going to their parent asking for something and never even caring about where the money's coming from, knowing good and well that your parents don't work or your parents are in debt. They were just now talking about how bad and how far in debt they are, but you're going to continue to come to them every single daggone day for some new shoes, a new coat, new jacket, new dress, new hat, something. You know what I mean? So no, y'all got to have that information in hand already. If you want the money, help us figure out how to get you the money.
A methodology.
And don't say chicken dinners.
For compensation for calculating those harms, and we're passing it along to the state legislature. I think the state has a variety of options of how to pay for this. The state, if it decides to pay for it, again, we are recommending compensation. We have come up with calculations for how compensations can be arrived at. But the state has a variety of, I think, instruments and approaches to how to...
Bruh, you just now did a whole bunch of talking and didn't answer a damn thing. I don't know who this gentleman is, and you real soft-spoken, you seem to be cool, but the question that he asked you, you didn't even, put a toe inside of the answer. You didn't even dip a fingernail in the answer at all. You didn't even start answering the question. You should have just said, I don't know, bruh. I don't know. You tell me. That would have been a better answer. I don't know, bruh. You tell me. That's what you should have said.
Stretch out a payment if they decide to do so.
All right, let me bring in Leo Terrell. You've been waiting patiently. Your response to this, Leo?
Well, you've done a great job of asking the right questions. First of all, they cannot prove any form of direct damage at all. I challenge him as a lawyer, as a civil rights lawyer, Piers. Here's the situation. They talk about institutionalized racism. Where is it? You got black mayors in this state. They talk about systemic racism. Where is it? Where's the white boogeyman that they're talking about? They cannot prove that people of color, black folks, deserve $1.2 million. Does Kamala Harris need it? Does London Breed, the mayor of San Francisco? Does Karen Bass, Barbara Lee, who's a congresswoman? They can't show this. What's the real reason behind this, Piers? I'll tell you what it is. In 2020, during the summer of riots, you had a governor named Gavin Newsom who wants to pander to black Americans in California in order to run for president. And I will submit to you that if such a bill was even contemplated, there would be a challenge to it because it violates the Equal Protection Clause, it's unconstitutional, and it's racist. And I would be the first, as a civil rights attorney, to challenge such a law. Last point, Gavin Newsom came out a couple of days ago, Piers, and said he is not inclined to support reparations in a cash payment.
All right, Leo Terrell, let me say this before I continue. And I might get in trouble for what I'm about to say, but it's okay. It's all good. We're all adults here. Let's talk. And hopefully I'll catch up later. All right, so Leo Terrell, for the fact that black people are doing well is not proof that there's not enough pain out there to have a desire for reparations. Okay, the reason why people want reparations is because the ass who promised reparations never paid reparations. That's it. But most people, you know, the 40 acres and a mule, that's what I'm talking about. That's it. That's it. That slaves, ancestors, descendants of slaves will receive 40 acres of, and a mule just to make things right. That's it. They never received the 40 acres and a mule. They didn't make things right. And people want that. That's all. That's all they're damn saying. Okay? But so Leo Terrell, comparing like where are all the people who are so in so much pain that need this when black people are doing so well? We got black governors and black vice presidents and black. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, nobody cares. Was that guy pandering to the black community? Absolutely. Absolutely, he was pandering. He was trying to sell them something to vote for him. But are you yourself ignoring certain pains that come from the ancestries of, the descendants of slaves? Now, I don't believe that there should be any pocket payment. I don't believe that at all. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of people sitting on their hands and not doing a damn thing and waiting for a payment in order for them to go out and do something because they feel like they deserve it or they've earned it. My answer to them is you have not earned it and you don't deserve it. You didn't go through any of the pain of the slaves that you are related to or may be related to. And you're not out there busting your ass to get any of the resources that those slaves have died for. They died for you to have the freedoms that you have and be able to get off your ass and go get whatever it is that you desire. So a lot of the people who are constantly asking for reparations, we need them, we want them, we need them, we want them. For me, it makes you look weak. It makes you look soft. It makes you look lazy, just in my humble opinion. By me saying that, I realize it makes me look like a coon. It makes me look like an Uncle Tom, all that other stuff. And for that, I will say I don't give a damn because we all got our own opinion on certain things. That's just mine on this. So everybody got their side that they want to support, but I'm more of a middle of the road, common sense type of person. And if I work my ass off, and I'm selfish, I'm gonna let you know that too. I'm selfish because if I'm working my ass off to make sure that I look out for my family before I go and indulge in BS myself, put myself further in holes that I can't dig myself out of financially without the help of someone else. If I'm constantly doing that over and over and over again, and I'm not learning from it, then I don't deserve a damn thing, okay? And neither do people out there who are doing the same thing over and over again, because they are just like me. I didn't have more than them in order to get to where I've gone and get to where I'm going, all right? So I received the same education that they received. I received the same freedoms that they received. I lived in the same bad communities that they live in or that they lived in, because a lot of the people who are asking for it don't even live in those communities anymore at all. But they're at a position in their lives where they're feeling like they have survivor's remorse and they want the people who didn't make it out to also get a piece of the pie. That's what's happening. So they are the loudest of them all, trying to make sure that they get a nice slice. And it makes absolutely no sense. And again, if they can answer where the money is coming from, I'd be all for the conversation. But until then, mom's the word.
All right. Listen, you've made some fiery points back there. So, Jovan, I guess my overview has been about this issue. Are we now in this country, for example, going to seek some form of payment from descendants of the Romans and the Vikings for their marauding around Britain? And if not, why not? In other words, what's the difference really ideologically?
The difference, Piers, is that you guys didn't promise the Vikings and the Romans 40 acres and a mule. The difference is the people who, the racist individuals or the people who had all the power at that time should have shut their ass up if they didn't plan on paying. Maybe they was doing it to pander too, so that they can receive power on a certain level. And they never, really believed that they would do it or go through with it. But they actually promised that. So since they promised that, people are going back in history books Or they're going back in the day and looking at, look, it says it right here, the same way we do when we talk about supporting the Constitution. It says it right here. You know, I can arm myself, defend my family against tyranny, against the government and whoever else want to harm us. So that's all they're doing. I just want people to make some sense of it all.
Behind what you're striving to achieve for the African American community, for historic issues, and that. And me saying, well, I'm sure some of my ancestors were mistreated by Romans and Vikings. I'd like a large check, please.
Sure. And that's a fair question. And, you know, counter to your other guest's claim, we have established the exact record of harm. What we're talking about is that the African-American community, as recent as 1973, here where I live in South Berkeley, was demolished.
This chair is horrible, T.S. Billings. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that information.
A commercial district was demolished to build a train station. You're talking about African-American communities that were demolished to build highway systems. So the record of harm is clear. It is direct. And I really do welcome your other guests to view the interim report that we released last summer, which is a 500-page detailed report of the specific and direct harms.
And I will say this too. There should be no reparations for the system that we're set up in, because the system we're set up in constantly hands us programs. And I'm talking about the impoverished community. We're always handed programs or tickets to get to the front of the line that continue to screw us over. No Child Left Behind. The kid is not smart enough to move on to the next grade, but because of No Child Left Behind, we're going to move him to the next grade anyway, to allow him or her to fail even more from No Child Left Behind. Happens year after year after year after year after year. The next thing you know, we're trying to figure out how come people don't understand this, that, and the third, because they're too damn dumb to understand it. We kept moving them ahead. Same thing happens in college. We're African Americans, so we get to move ahead in order to have an opportunity to be a part of some huge university that we might not be altogether ready for. Thomas Sowell was talking about that exact same thing and said a lot of us are failing in those schools and drop out in those schools at alarming rates because we weren't ready academically to be in those institutions. So we keep on making these rules. Welfare is one of them. Like, it's so much stuff out there. Abortions is one of them. Free abortions. We keep doing things for impoverished communities, for Black community, that end up screwing us. So now we want another thing, and we're talking about the systems. Well, those things are in the system too, and they are all negative. The gun laws are another thing. In impoverished communities, the gun laws are really heavy. Citizens, we don't want y'all to have no guns. And if you do have a gun, you gotta go through this, and this, and this, and this, and this. They're really tough in the same community, same areas where all of the crime is. So we keep on giving these things. Certain things are being placed inside of the system to help Black community and impoverished communities, and it continues to bite us in the butt. And now we're out there again with our bullhorns on our soapboxes asking for another thing that's going to end up holding us back. I might sound foolish, but that to me sounds like what it is.
That African Americans in the state have faced at the hands of state policy. And that's what we're this is what we're
But I would say this, Joe, I mean, there are other communities, the gay community of the world, right, have all had discrimination from the state. Right, you could argue. And you could argue that's caused a lot of pain and harm. So do members of the gay community globally, are they entitled to take your lead and say, right, we were discriminated against by states, we want money for it? In other words, where do you end?
They got next. They're on their way.
Sure, where you end is with state responsibility. And so if those other communities and any communities can establish an actual record of state harm that is intentional, and what I'm saying is that these harms were intentional. We're talking about redlining, where Black communities were directly targeted by state dispossession. We are talking about an exact record that has been established. And so if any community can establish a similar record, then I encourage them to make a claim. This is what we're talking about.
Okay.
This is not about a cultural issue. This is about a record of harms that the state should be responsible for.
I understand, and you've expressed yourself in a very civil way, and I appreciate you for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
And also to you, Leo Terrell, thank you very much indeed to both of you.
So systemic racism is the reason why people want their reparations. Okay. Yeah, good luck with that. I think it's foolish, but hey, that's just me. Am I messing up the bag for a bunch of black people who are for it? Probably. But I'm not trying to be selfish or anything like that. I'm just trying to be practical. Like, we all have opportunities to do whatever the hell we want to do. Will we ever have the power to be able to control certain things that we want to control? No, I don't think so. But there's still, there's a great deal of people out there who are achieving and taking care of their families and living amazing lives, and they haven't the power that a lot of these people want. The power. Why do you want the power? Why do you need that power that you claim your community needs, right? Most people don't even understand why. They believe that it'll completely, fix everything. That makes no sense whatsoever. But hey, figure it out. I'm telling you one thing. I won't deny $1 million that shows up in my bank account. I won't. I'm not no fool. I'm gonna have to pay taxes on it more than likely. But if $1 million free money shows up in my daggone bank account, I'm not gonna deny it. But I don't believe people should have it. I think people should use what they got. Be appreciative of the things that you do have. Look at all of the things that are a blessing in your life and run with that. Because the more we complain about things we don't have, or how the system is set up against us, how we can't fight that, and we've been redlined back in the day, Jim Crow, and then we got that, and hanging and killings and the police. All we're doing is filling our minds and our hearts up with barriers to make us feel good about playing in the Victim Olympics. It makes us feel like we deserve a place in the Victim Olympics, and that's all that is.